So, welcome. Linda and I are back here with you for our LinkedIn Live. And today we're having a look and we're talking about making commitments, creating them so that they're good for you, good for others, and good for achieving your goals. And of course, with that coming the action plan. So, what to put in place to have a successful action plan. And just having a look at this, where we've been actually. If we, Linda, I think maybe I should start from where we started, and actually that these goal setting supports you in terms of creating a guiding line within which creates direction for you. So you can still flow within that. You can change things up. You can see what's working. You can see what's not working and flow with that and change it so that you do achieve the end goal. And then, of course, last week we spoke about how to make these more practical in terms of getting it to that you achieve your dreams and achieve those goals. And this week now, really having a look and bedding down what it is that you need to put in place. So, starting with the goals, setting big picture goals. If you've set these long term goals, and that is always for you to have a look at, where are you setting your goals? Is it a 5-year goal? Is it a 3-year goal? Is it a 1-year goal? And then working back to see what needs to be in place. So if it's a 5-year goal, and then we're working it backwards, where do you need to be in 3 years' time? Where do you need to be in 1 year's time, so that you can see? And then from there, start to put in those commitments, put in the action plan so that it guides you through to that. Personally, I don't know about you, Linda, but I don't really like to set anything too much further than 2 years. 1 year is a good timeline for me. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction for everybody and the reminder of where we've come from in this focus February month. I can't believe we're almost at the end of it, next week, Monday. But hopefully you guys have been focusing in February, and we're going to help you get to that point where March becomes the time when you really, really act, March Madness, right? So and on your question, it's very interesting. So I'm going to share it as a story, my own story, because then I think people can decide whether they resonate with that or not. And so my story is that I do have a 10-year plan, right? So in 10 years' time, if I was in the corporate world, I would be retiring. What does that mean? What does life look like in 10 years' time? How old are my children? Where am I living? What is going to be happening? So this is a very sort of rough example of what the 10-year plan looks like for me, right? And it's verbal in my case. It could be images in your cases, right? It all depends on your style of learning and doing things. So mine is written down, and it kind of works like this. It is the year 2032, right? 2032. And and I, together with my husband, we are living in the mountains of the Drakensberg, South Africa. We get up in the morning and take a nice long walk and enjoy a breakfast on the patio or stoop, made for us by our personal chef. During the course of the day, I have a business. It's a thriving business with at least 10 employees. Those employees are in business coaching with me, but they are support services. I have a virtual assistant. I have someone doing my marketing in sales. I have an accountant or a finance person. I've got some people who are in an academy learning how to be business coaches, just like Linda. And so this is not what the position is right now. You then expand on it, saying at that point in time, I'm earning R1 million a year or $100,000 a year from this venture. I'm represented on global stages, speaking to audiences of thousands. I'm on my third book. There are courses that I'm running that people sign up to and to grow with glee. And life is good, right? I have my health. I have my family, I have a few friends, and I have beautiful nature to live in. So it's a dream, right? It's a dream. It's just a
Definitely sounds
beautiful
like one.
it's a beautiful visual dream. Um, Now, to get there, and you could focus in on the money side of it, the 1 million Rand. How do I get to 1 million Rand in 10 years' time? Or you could focus on the dream part of it. How do I get to that financial freedom, that wonderful position where I'm just able to I can provide employment and I can allow my day to unfold as it unfolds without working too hard, without killing myself over work. Again, it's not the position today. So, in order for me to get from today to 10 years' time, it's just such a huge leap that the experts will tell you it's better to bring it closer to home. So, what Jade is saying, a year or 2 years is close enough to say, look, I know what I want in 10 years or 5 years, but it's just too much for me to grasp right now. It's too overwhelming. It's too far away. I'm currently in debt, perhaps. How do I first get out of debt? How do I get clients? How do I get to at least a tenth of that? And then I can work towards it. So it's very valuable to have that, because then the dream's not in your head. You've written it down or represented it with pictures. It becomes more real and you can keep referring back to it, right, when times get tough. But bring it back to at least 3 years. So if I want 1 million Rand in 10 years, then I probably need to get to a space of 200,000 or 300,000 in 2 years, right? So if I can break that down into an annual goal, then it's 100, 150,000. We're talking, and I'm just throwing a number around, right? We're talking now about 8 to 10,000, 8 to 12,000 a month. If I'm if I'm earning that already, then I'm well on my way. But I need to determine how to grow my business and keep scaling up and up over the course of the years. If I'm starting from zero, how do I get to the 8,000? And how many clients will I need, and so on and so forth. So again, it's a lot of stuff, but start with the dream, bring it back closer to home, and then we'll start to talk. I'm going to ask Jade in a minute now, what else do you need, Jade, to put your 1 year plan together? What does that take? What does it look like? I've sort of painted the 10-year one. What would you say the 1 to 2 year picture looks like?
So the same thing. So you were very right, Linda, in terms of that 10-year plan, that dream. That's what it is. That's what it exists as right now. Something as a part of our imagination, a vision that we want to achieve, and can be quite overwhelming when we think about it, because what we end up doing as a human being is thinking how far away from that we actually are. So it builds this resistance. It can trigger our programs of, I can't do this, well, I'm a failure, it hasn't worked before, all of these types of thinking patterns, which then obviously don't serve it. So when we do bring it closer to home and we bring it down into the smaller bite-sized chunks. So last week I spoke about the 20% stretches and eating an elephant one bite at a time. So what's that first big goal that gets you towards the 10-year goal? So if it is in terms of reaching a certain milestone in terms of income, reaching a certain milestone in terms of the business, having, for example, if you may be 2 employees currently, maybe it's having 5. So really starting to have a look, okay, so what needs to be in place to get to 5 employees? How many clients do I need to have? What kind of cash flow do I need to have? What are the processes I need to have in place? Who do I need to be as a leader that is leading my business into having 5 employees? So then some leadership development. So where do you think that you need to grow in terms of yourself, not only your business and your business processes? So when we have a look at doing that, then we can start to break it down. It doesn't become so overwhelming. It seems like a lot to do, but more manageable, because it's now in the smaller bite-sized chunks to achieve. And when you do that, it's like compound interest. If you just making, even if it's a 1% shift daily, it's 365% at the end of the year. So, and that is more than you could ever actually imagine. You can't imagine that 1% difference until you reflect back and have a look at what it is that you accomplished. So, putting these plans in place, they become, for me, guiding lines towards your goals. And this really, if you can start to honor them, I would say, if we're looking at let's say a 1 year plan, then what does it look like that you're going to check in terms of where you're at? Is it on a monthly basis? You're going to review, change, adjust, implement again, and then the next month review. What does that plan look like? I like to have like a CEO meeting with myself on a weekly basis. It sets the week off right, and put everything in place, put my to-dos down, and then I can check in the next meeting, or what did I achieve, what didn't I achieve, what do I need to adjust. So this for me is really then starts to speak into what works for somebody specifically. Is it once a month? Is it once a week? Do you need an accountability partner to put in place that really supports you in creating the momentum? And what do these goals look like? So how big of a stretch are you going? And then creating the momentum. I think that's also important. When we're stretching further out of our comfort zone, we have to be more on top of our game. It's like high performance coaching. As a high performance coaching coach, would probably coach their client every 3 days to keep the momentum going. So you have to take this into consideration. At what speed do you want to work at? Because then the intensity is going to increase as well.
And that's a very good point about that speed and intensity. So, Jade and I are sitting here sharing with you what can work and what does work, as many other coaches would be able to tell you. You perhaps sitting there asking some questions, like exactly like that. How quickly should I do this? How often should I work on my goals? How often do I reflect them? Exactly what am I supposed to be writing down and having the CEO board meeting with myself about? One thing that occurs to me is that we are in this social world, this social media world. We are often dragged into the next big thing. What is it that everyone's doing? Let me do the same thing. And I actually reflected quite a bit today on the topic of, I keep perhaps sometimes changing my tactics as well to achieve the goals. But what is important is that the goal itself is clear. And if you haven't got this clear goals, if you're saying to yourself something like, I need clients, right? That's probably the typical one that everyone would say. I need clients. Okay. How many? Oh, lots. No. So back to your financial goal, my million rand translated all the way back to a year, let's call it 100,000 rand, divided by 12 for a month. It sort of says to you that I'm looking for 8,000 rand a month. Now, if I sell something that is 80 rand and I can sell 10 of those in a month and I have no expenses, then I make my goal, right? But clearly you also have expenses. So we were talking, the goal is not a revenue goal, but a take home pay profit goal, if you like, the net profit goal. And that's something that I advise. Don't talk about just the revenue goal. How much do you want to extract out of the business for you that will allow you to reach those dreams, pay off your debts, invest in something, and have that beautiful house in the mountains or by the sea? So let's just assume it needs to be double that, So I need to earn 16,000 in revenue, which means now instead of 10 clients, I need 20 clients. How many do I have? Let's say I have 5. I need to get 15. Where am I going to find the 15? Let's say I think I might find them in some networking groups, or if I do an email campaign, or if I go and hand out flyers at the local stores. How many of those flyers do I have to hand out? How many emails do I have to send out? How many conversations do I need to have with my networking partners in order to get those numbers? And the answers will be different for every one of us. So there's no quick answer, 100 phone calls, 10 qualification calls, 1 client. You will have to experiment to figure it out. But the point I'm trying to make is you'll have to come up with some tactics, some plans that are actual things you're going to do to try and achieve that number goal. And the number goal, if you're wondering, why am I doing this? Well, back to that 10-year plan that says I'm doing it because without the money, I cannot live the dream. If your dream does not depend on money, marvelous, then you need to work on different aspects of, maybe it's a relationship thing. Maybe you're in the wrong relationship, and then that's a very different set of goals. What steps are you going to take to get out of the relationship and change certain aspects of your life so you can live the dream you want to live, if it's irrelevant to money? So take what I'm saying as it applies to you. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's not money. I do focus on money. I'm a banker, I'm a coach, I work on the finances. But there's also some very big elements of working on aspects of my life as a whole. And that's where quite often Jade would help me, or can help you, in working on those other aspects. Like, what about my personality prevents me from getting business? Do I have to change something about the way I interact with people? Do I have to change my understanding of what holds me back? And my relationship with things like money, I may want the money, but I'm doing things to self-sabotage that, and it will never happen. So the planning is broad and deep, right? It's broad as in you can calculate some numbers and work them all the way back and say, hang on, now I know what I need to achieve, and these are the steps that I need to take to get there. Or it might be deep, as in I'm just employing the wrong behaviors completely, and I need to work on those and then change how I do things to get the better results. Jade, I'm sure you can sort of talk a little bit more on if we're talking about those deeper things. And I think this is something very common that I know. I can talk in very practical number terms, but people still don't achieve their goals because there's something way more personal and deep that's preventing them from doing so, right? What steps does somebody have to take if that's the case, and they're finding that even though they write the goals down, even though they track and monitor and reflect on them, it's still not happening? What would they do to improve their chances of making it work?
Well, it would be to have a look at what's the underlying cause. So what's the thinking that's happening in a certain scenario? So, for example, I had a client who was doing well, and yet hit a level and wasn't going past that. So when we had a look at it and we started to unpack it, what we found was there was an underlying needing to please. So of course we want to please our clients, we want to do a good job, we want to maintain a relationship, but there's always a line when it becomes too much, and then it becomes detrimental to you as a person and to your business as well, because then what we found in this particular case was it was time consuming. So my client would spend too much time with a client because he was afraid to say, okay, I've got to go. And so he would stay there building a relationship. But when we got to have a look at what it actually was, and that the thinking behind it was only his thinking, didn't mean that the client was actually unhappy at all, didn't mean that the client expected him to sit there and have these long conversations. And when he got himself into a position to have the confidence to go, all right, so this is a 15-minute meeting and that's how I'm going to handle it and do it, he ultimately ended up increasing his clientele, became more time efficient, increased clientele, because now obviously you can see more people. And that just comes from that. And I mean, we all have a people pleaser, unfortunately. So there is that trait in us. And if it's taking hold of you, then the impact can be many different things. And that's been one of them. So when we actually sit down and we have a look, okay, what's the thinking behind where you're at, then we can unpack, is it a confidence issue? Is it fear to step into maybe a new industry because the business hasn't ever stepped into that industry before? What exactly is the fear about it? So when we start to have a look at those things, then we can start to make them more practical. And normally it's an assumption on our part that we're not going to be able to do something, or it comes from an old experience where we tried something, it didn't work, or we were maybe mocked as a kid, and these terrible things, and we carry it through into present day. But that's the past. And when we can acknowledge that that's past events, it's not who you are now. You've come this far, and you're running a business, and you're a successful person, and you're looking to grow. There is so much more to you than what happened so many years ago. And sometimes it's just actually the pure acknowledgement. Sometimes it's just seeing it, that's the thinking that exists. And that can create a shift quite quickly, which then starts to get you back into momentum to achieving the plans and putting more into place, more efficient plans into place. I see Taryn is with us, and she says changing of old conditioning is a work in progress. Absolutely. That you've got to first of all become aware of what your old conditioning actually is, and then start to recreate new patterns. So you want to say, okay, that's the old stuff. I'm no longer there, and I'm choosing to do something different. I'm choosing to be brave and go out there and find my 5 new clients and try something different, because you'll surprise yourself. You will surprise yourself.
Yeah, I think it's certainly important to have a clear mind for business. Too many businesses fail because they know they have a skill, perhaps. They're really great with the client service, to that story that you told, so much so that they answer the phone at 11 o'clock at night and run around after a client, only to find out that there's no money in their bank account later. And and they sit there and they go, what am I doing wrong? It seems counterintuitive not to spend all that time with your clients, but if you spend too much time with them, then it is not serving your ultimate goals and dreams, and that's where you need to find that balance in your life and career. And I did want to also say, for any of our listeners here today, please ask your questions. Jade and I don't want to just hear ourselves talking. We'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts and questions in particular, so that we could be a bit more specific around this topic. So we're talking from our perspectives and our, how things have worked out with certain clients of ours. And I know that often it's not the practical stuff that is the problem. It's the environment and perceptions and your own abilities and fears that do affect us. Now, let's assume, though, that you've spent a lot of time with someone like Jade, and that's all dealt with. It's all good. You are ready to scale your business. You have that 10-year goal dream. You've brought the numbers back, and you've brought the ideas back to a 1-year plan. But even a 1-year plan, so you may start your 1-year plan in January and go through a calendar year. I like to do that. If you have an accountant, you may go with a financial year, which tends to be from March to February. It doesn't matter what you do. You can choose when your year starts, but measuring it over a year so that you can compare the next year with that year and so on is very important, to see that you're moving in the right direction, i.e. upwards, right? Or onwards or forward, not backwards, not downwards. And why is that important? Because you have this goal and dream. If you're happy where you are right now, then by all means, just keep doing what you're doing because it's obviously working and you are happy. But most of us have something in the future. So, I'd like to say that 1-year plan now needs to be brought back to like a quarterly plan. So we're coming even closer to home now, because now that's 3 months. And why I say 3 months and not 1 month is because 1 month could be the Christmas month, right? Another month is the month you're on holiday. Another month, my biggest problem is July. It's winter in Johannesburg. I just go hibernate. So it's like you're not, there are going to be months where you're not as efficient and not as effective and not as busy as you were in a different month. So if over a 3-month period, it's a good time to measure your performance quarter by quarter instead of month by month, because otherwise there might be a lot of ups and downs. And in that quarterly measurement, what are we trying to achieve? What questions should you be looking to ask yourself? So, right, you've broken the numbers down again into a quarter. This is what I need to earn to cover expenses and get the money out that I need out. And these are the number of clients at this price that would give me that result. Now, how do I get the clients? What are the marketing tactics I could use? What's the relationships that I need to build? Who can help me do this? And how am I going to do it? What technology do I need? What graphic designs do I need? Do I need a website? As I said, do I need a flyer? So this is where you must delve into a lot more of the detail of who, what, where, when, how, those magic questions. And I would even write those down and say, who's going to do this? Is it me? Or am I going to ask one of my employees to do it? Am I going to ask an accountant to do it? Am I going to ask a virtual assistant to do this piece? And when am I going to do it? Well, there's some things that I want to put in place for this next 3 months. So I need to start doing something now, and then I need to build on it, and then I need to implement it. So let me plan that over the next 3 months. And how much time am I going to need each week to be able to put that plan into action? And then that turns into these daily priorities where you sit with yourself, like Jade said, in the beginning of the week or the beginning of the month, and you've got your CEO meeting. Or you don't have to sit with yourself. You can get that accountability partner, right? That coach, that mentor, that advisor, that friend who you bounce it off and say, this is what I'm hoping to achieve over the next 3 months. What do you think? Is it doable? Do you think I need help? Am I smoking my socks? And they give you that, encouragement and perhaps some advice on how you could do it even better than you've thought of. So there's a lot of value in that. But if you feel like you can do it yourself, then please just do it, right? Because that's what makes all the difference in the world. I have this funny little statement where I say I help clients to P with glee. It's not the P you're thinking of, but the green one, PEA, which is plan, what we've been talking about all February. Energize yourself. So get over whatever those things are that are holding you back, and act. Do the things that you said you're going to do, because that's the commitment part of it, and that the doing is what's going to generate the results. Jade, should we check in with all these comments on in the chat?
So I just wanted to say hello to Kevin. He appreciates us for sharing, and thanks for having him. So it's wonderful to have you join us, Kevin. Grant said, we always underestimate ourselves. So absolutely. You never actually know what your full potential is until you start working with it and consciously working with it, seeing where are those limits, what do you need to change it, just shift, so that you can start unpacking how much potential you have, because actually we are infinitely, we have so much potential. I'm just stumbling over my words saying that. Craig asked for an example of commitments. So that is something that is measurable in time and space. So very specific, very clear. So if it is that you want to attain a certain turnover, let's say R1 million in a year, and you break it down into Linda's quarters, so 250,000 per quarter, and then what are the commitments that do you need to implement a certain process? So I commit to implement process X by 28th of February 2022. So very specific in time and space, so that you're honoring that commitment, and you can see the progress from implementing and it actually doing those commitments. So getting into the action behind the commitment, always time and space. So when you are that clear with your commitments, you do something to yourself, and I can't explain it. It just does something to you. If it's a big, scary commitment, you're going to feel the resistance, and that's okay. Then break it down into something smaller and start a little bit smaller. So Craig, I hope that was clear enough for you. Taryn says, majority of my clients rock, but where or how can I draw the line with giving over what was agreed? It does go to people pleasing, but that time and energy can be used focusing on getting my next client. Fantastic point. I actually wanted to talk to this when you mentioned that 11 o'clock at night phone call, Linda. So not only is there people pleasing in that, and some lack of boundaries in place, but also potentially some underlying relationship with money showing up. Because if there is some sort of, I have to keep my client happy, otherwise I'm not going to get paid, or that is somehow linked to money, that is also going to be a driving force, not only people pleasing, but when it's linked to our money, it will also then show up in us going the extra 200,000 miles to prove something, when actually not acknowledging the value that we bring just simply by our service, so that we somehow think we need to prove over and above that there is so much more and we're worthy of money. But then what you'll find is that you're actually out of equilibrium. What we call the law of fair and equitable exchange, because then your time spent on a specific client is so much more than what you're receiving in value from monetary value, that the scale starts to slide, and we can actually start to be a little bit resentful, because we think this client's taking up so much of our time, but actually we haven't put the boundary in place. And so it's not a good thing to do, because then also what happens is our momentum to work lowers, our motivation to work lowers, because the resentment sits there and then we don't have that motivation. So it's really definitely defining expectations with a client. So you set that as a commitment for yourself, that you will define expectations with your clients, what is within the service that you are providing. And then it would be a commitment to yourself to honor yourself and your time, so that that doesn't become something that keeps happening, because it sort of snowballs. Once you do it once, you do it with the second client, and then it just becomes a snowball effect. And before you know it, you're quite frustrated and not wanting to do anything. So it's definitely important that you put that in place for yourself. I don't know if you want to add anything, Linda.
I do. I mean, 100% agree with you, because those boundaries are absolutely vital. And I want to say, your client is exactly that. They're your client. They're not your family member or your friend, and they're not part of that dream or goal in the 10 years or 5 years that you're trying to strive for. And I'm gonna point out to many of you that might be a little bit in the younger generations. You are setting yourself up for burnout, and you are setting yourself up for worse. So it happens, right? It's happened to a lot of people that I've come across and met, including myself, by working yourself to the bone on the idea in your head that you are providing client service, excellent client service, is not doing yourself or your family or your friends any favors, and it's more likely to lead to disaster, if not today or next month or next year, soon thereafter. So people pleasing, that exercise of people pleasing, of feeling like you have to always be helping, always be doing, always be providing client service, you are actually not doing it. Client service is exactly what Jade says, is that fair and equitable exchange of your time and energy for the other's time or money or energy, right? Depending on the circumstances. And I find it a bit easier to say no than many people. It's something I don't have a problem with, and yet I haven't had the feedback that everyone's unhappy with the service. They didn't say, why didn't you answer the phone at 11 o'clock? I've put those boundaries in place, so no one phones me after hours or on a weekend. And this was long before I had my own business. I created these boundaries in banking, in my career. That is just unreasonable for someone to expect they can call you on a Sunday unless you are a plumber. And if you are a plumber or an electrician or somebody who's providing that emergency service, the emergency service is set up such that it's after hours and on the weekends, medical as well. If you are a coach or you're selling goods, you're selling, linen and curtains, what on earth does someone need you at 11 o'clock at night for? Or even 7 o'clock at night or 6 in the morning? They are making their time constraints your time constraints. It's their old adage of the monkey's on their back, so they pass the monkey to you. And you're accepting this monkey, and there it sits very heavily, causing you angst, causing you pressure. And that pressure will eventually pop. So I know it can't be that easy for some people, but I really encourage you to put those boundaries in place. And if you can't do it alone, get help from those who know how to help you to do it, because that will make all the difference. Then you can focus on what it is you need to do to achieve those goals and dreams without these distractions and thoughts. Have we got more questions?
Well, I just also wanted, because Lauren also said on the same topic, so it's so true. I often try people please to my detriment, need to set up boundaries and realize I am worth more. So absolutely, it's so, this is my favorite topic, really. People are valuable. You, as a human being in this very moment, without you doing absolutely anything, you are valuable. And you bring value with everything that you do. So it's for you, but you need to honor that, because otherwise no one else will. So it's you honoring it first, and then putting those boundaries and those expectations down in place, and taking a risk, because as Linda said, for her it's easy to say no, but you also need to understand you don't have to accept every client. So if the client is not honoring what you put in place, maybe they're not the client for you. So really having a look and getting down to the finer details of what type of client do you want in your business? How do you want to be treated by clients? What kind of relationship do you want to have? So define that. So when anything is not that, you know, this is not for me, and then honoring it, because that is also, you're allowed to fire clients if they're not in line with you. Honor yourself first, and I promise you'll probably find you have a much better quality client, and you'll have much less trouble with clients going forward if you can put these boundaries in place and honor them for yourself. So this is a big thing. This also links into money mindset, because money mindset links into our self-worth. So when we start to work on both, then you start to see shifts and changes in your life. Then on to Craig. Craig asks, what is the difference between a commitment and an action plan? Do you want to answer that, Linda?
I'll give it a bash. Yeah, thanks for the question, Craig. So I'm thinking, an action plan. We can all write some actions down, or start something, right? So acting is doing. Plan is that you've thought about it before, so you have an intention to do something. That would be an action plan. I have an intention to do something in the next week. But the commitment is more than that. The commitment is a clearer action plan. So, like we said, you could just write down the words, I plan to call 15 people next week to come to my next LinkedIn Live event, right? So that's an action plan. I've written that down. I've said it out loud. I'm going to call 15 people on Monday to come to the next LinkedIn Live event. But I haven't made it very clear. I haven't said which 15 people, where am I going to find those names and telephone numbers? What kind of person am I trying to get in touch with? Is it just any 15 people, or is it 15 people in a particular industry, or 15 people of a particular age, or 15 people in a particular geography? And then once I've got some more detail about who I'm going to call, when exactly is the best time for me to call on Monday? Let me look at my calendar. My calendar says I've got some free time between 10 and 12 on Monday morning. So now I can put that definitely in my calendar. So there's more clarity here than what we originally had. So I'm going to put it in my calendar between 10 and 12 on Monday morning, the 28th of February. I'm going to phone 15 people in the UK to attend my next LinkedIn Live event on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Why am I phoning these people? Why have I chosen those people? Well, I have had some people before from the UK say, for example, just run with me, and therefore I've had the best results. So I'm going to see if I can replicate those results and get another 15 people to come to the LinkedIn Live event that I'll have next week. So the difference between just saying, I'm going to phone 15 people next week for my LinkedIn Live event, I've now made it way more specific, right? And that's the difference in my mind between just an action plan and a real commitment to follow through on that action plan. I hope that helps you, Craig.
I think for me, it's pretty much the same, with the action plan being the outline of what I want to achieve, and the commitments being the actual absolute clarity of what needs to be executed in terms to follow the action plan. So, yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Hello, Adassa. Thank you for joining us.
Good to have you here.
And everyone who's joined us today. It's very wonderful to have the comments and the questions. We really appreciate it. I think we're about to wrap up. Is there anything you want to add as a last point, or just to summarize it?
No, I think this has been great. And what I would say is, if you're watching the recording and you have any questions, pop them into the comments so Linda and I can pick them up. And if you give us any good idea of another topic that you would like us to address, then we will happily jump onto another live and sort you out on your topic. So
some ideas from March. That'll be amazing, guys. And also to encourage you to share these LinkedIn Live recordings. They're wonderfully just available. We don't have to share the link through an email or anything. So you can just go on LinkedIn to the events section. You can go via Jade's page and you'll find the links to the events. And then share them with anybody that you think would find them useful. And in terms of action and a commitment, have that action plan. Go and determine when you're going to do it, how much time you're going to spend on it, and just do it, right? Plan, energize, act. If you're stuck at any point in this process and are struggling to do it alone, you can get help. Please connect with Jade or myself or both of us, and we will gladly get on a discovery call with you to hear more about your particular circumstances and how we could help you. But hopefully you found this topic interesting in this month of focusing in February, and we hope that you've received a lot of value from listening in. Thanks, Jade.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon in South Africa, morning in the States, and wherever else you are. Enjoy your day.
Wonderful. Bye.